we are ranking the top 20 strongest characters in JJK in the end of the series. This is going to be based off feats, power, the scaling from the series itself, and of course how strong they are in curse techniques and in battle. Obviously this is probably not going to be as super accurate as I hope it be, because you can do any type of complication you can. So the way I look at it is you almost have to put them in groups in how they're listed. So 6 to 8 may not have the biggest drop off, and definitely 14 to 17 is closer than it really looks. But enough of the dissertation, let's go ahead and get into the list. At number 20, I'm going with Megumi, really for only one reason, and that's because of Mahoraga. Mahoraga is such a force, there's no way I can really leave him off the list. I don't want to classify him as his own character. I think that kind of just throws things out of the loop, and instead just put him with Megumi. And if anything, this shows how powerful Mahoraga really is. Although he is a counter to almost 90% of the verse, everything else with Megumi, I think everybody else that is on this list simply just counters him and is better at him than pretty much everything that you can do when it comes to Sorcerer. He's incredibly smart, but a lot of that was based off of his potential, which unfortunately we were never able to see his potential with the 10 Shadows. We only really got to see it with another person that would be labeled on this list at the very end of the video probably. But with 10 Shadows, he wasn't able to muster up the full potential. The domain expansion was always incomplete, and he only was able to use it twice throughout the series to where he can actually finish somebody off, which was against Reggie and a special grade curse. And when he did use Mahoraga, he did not have full control over it. To me, it would be kind of wrong to put him anywhere higher than this, as everybody else has either reached their potential or they are so powerful that there's not that many what ifs we would have left for them compared to Megumi. Number 19, I got the man of culture himself, Aoi Todo. Now, Todo was able to get a huge buff towards the end of the series in the Shinjuku Showdown with his Boogie Woogie, even though he did lose his hand in the Shibuya Incident arc, and almost ended up paying off when he got the new instrument tool, and he was able to pretty much almost infinitely do his Boogie Woogie, which Boogie Woogie was already a problem by itself, because the simple fact is it is such a confusing technique to counter. You already know what his ability does, even if you just fight him one quick second, but it's hard to plan for because you never know what Todo's able to do, and he's so creative on the fly that he'll take anything, whether it be a piece of rubble infused with cursed energy, swap it, and still be able to land huge blows. Physically, he's very imposing. He always hits hard. We've seen him against Yuji, who was incredibly durable. If that was anybody else, they would have been mangled to shreds, when it comes to the students at least. And Todo with a partner is almost the ultimate teammate you can ever have, because although he doesn't have like this overwhelming power or cursed energy beam that just obliterates everybody, whoever he's working with instantly becomes an incredible threat. He is not going nowhere. Plus factor in Todo's high IQ, even enough to trick Number 18, I got Big Brother Choso. Now, Choso is one of the most versatile characters in the series because his bag is just so deep, being the best blood manipulation user in the entire JJK verse. And when I mean by deepest bag, I mean let's just go over all of the moves that Choso can do that are blood conversion, slicing exorcism, piercing blood, supernova, his strongest move to date, blood edge, flowing red scale, which he can stack on top of it, which pretty much increases his out, blood meteorite, and then in his fight with Kenjaku, he was able to add Eso and Kechizu with Wing King and the ability to stretch out his punch, almost Luffy-like, with the blood that kind of extends out into different and longer attacks. And then I think the best part about it is the poisoning, because anytime he fights a sorcerer, he's able to do damage to them and get the blood on them, they get poisoned very quickly. His best showcase of that was with Naoya, as Naoya, who was a threat when we first see him because of his speed with the projection sorcery, he dealt with him rather easy because of the fact he was able to slow him down with the poison. He set him up perfectly with all the blood spurts that were left around in the area and set up a supernova that was able to take him out, and Naoya was done for until Yuta came in and saved him. Choso's best showcase is of course versus Yuji. I mean, that's one of the most iconic fights in the series. I think other than being able to showcase his bag with the long range and the mid range was how good he was in close range combat with Yuji. Yuji, even up until this point in Shibuya, was one of the most physical and strongest characters with just his body alone, and was someone you did want to trade punches with. But being able to use flowing red scale and stack, he was able to match Yuji's physicality and deal lethal blows to him that was able to knock Yuji out. It's really great that on top of this, Choso was also able to have a great character moment towards the end of the series, as he was one of the most consistently written characters in all of JJK. 17, I got the Earth's Curse Jogo. Now Jogo is looked at as kind of a joke within Jujutsu Kaisen, but he is a very powerful glass cannon for the series, as his speed is up there with some of the fastest, especially during Shibuya, where you would argue that after Gojo and Sukuna, the third fastest would be him. Then add on top of it his Cursed Flames, which pretty much not one-shots, but he is able to set almost anybody on fire and takes them out of commission, because it's hard to combat flames boosted with cursed energy while you're also being scorched. You look at the fight with Nabito, Maki, and Nanami. Granted, they weren't 100%, they weren't ready to fight him, but they knew instantly that compared to Dagon, Jogo was on a whole nother level. He doesn't have the greatest durability feats, because I feel like most of his major fights he kind of was toyed with a lot of the time, so it's kind of hard to gauge how powerful he is. He was able to take some really big strikes, but other than that, he kind of just got destroyed by obviously some of the more powerful attacks. He has a domain expansion, which unfortunately we weren't able to see the full potential of that, but we know it was going to more than likely just set people ablaze while launching earth rocks from a volcano at them. Honestly, under the right guidance, Jogo would have been a monster and a nightmare to go up against. Things get kind of complicated a little early here. Number 16, I got Uraume. Uraume is very much just based off perception in the series, but I think where she's at is kind of like you want to put them in like a group. And I think being with Choso, Jogo, Uraume is around that strength level, because she just doesn't have any other feats that I can really put up against the other people that's above her. She can manipulate ice and do whatever she wants with it, considering that it can slow down and stop any attack. I think that's one of the greatest uses and tools of this ability. Obviously, she can kill with it like anything else, but being able to stop the attack from the sorcerers, freezing everybody, Yuji, Panda, Choso included. Choso was able to stop it a little bit, but being able to put all that to an end, stopping the Maki and Yuji attack when they were going up against Sukuna, Frost Calm pretty much being a auto counter to almost anything that you try to put out when it comes to output, because Uraume's output has to be ridiculous, considering that one of the largest Frost Calms she did looks like it was able to cover up like almost like a street in everything that was on a higher level. So it's really hard to kind of gauge that. I wish they gave us almost like a better shot of that. Go off everything we've seen, little fight with Hakari, which unfortunately didn't really go anywhere. It was just a draw, but being able to draw with Hakari, especially with ice and not really having anything else to look at and back up, I would say Uraume is around this level. Plus, one of the major game plans was being able to keep Uraume away from Sukuna, because Uraume with Sukuna would have just been game over for them. Number 15, Ryu Ishigori. And he is the definition of simple but effective. Curse energy discharge is being able to ramp up his curse energy and outputting at the same output no matter what. So pretty much imagine like a maximum output attack, but every attack he does is at maximum output. Of course, he has a full power, which is the Granite Blast, which is basically a directed beam that shoots all the energy he encompasses at the opponent, and it's almost like a Kamehameha or like a Sero from Bleach. And in the three-way fight with Yuta and Uro, Ryu was by far the strongest one in that area other than Yuta. And in the 1v1, he was actually able to do a great amount of damage to Yuta, to where Yuta had to copy Ryu's ability in order to bounce that power and target him. Because with domain expansion, he probably wore Yuta out a slight bit, considering their domains were broken, and with some slept on durability, as Sukuna, who used a dismantle, sliced them, but it wasn't that much of a deep cut compared to all his other targets. He knew he had to put a little bit more oomph behind it, more power, giving some props to Ryu for how durable he really is. So with big grand blast and explosive fist to go with it, even though he wasn't in the story long, he was a showstopper, as a lot of people were rating this fight for how strong Yuta and Ryu were. Number 14, we got the comedian Fumihiko Takaba, with comedian being his curse technique. Takaba is up here because it's a lot of potential for him, but we kind of already saw what he can do in his fight with Kenjaku, and the fact that his ability can even affect Gojo, because he basically is like a reality breaker in a sense. Whatever he finds funny is going to come into reality, and he can deal damage or not take any damage from the opponent. We saw when the fight started with Kenjaku, when he started laughing and fighting them and making jokes, that he was not taking damage from Kenjaku's cursed spirits, the worms. He was almost immortal in a sense when it came to the spirits trying to take him down. So when Takaba is at peak inspiration, he's like a hard counter to a lot of strong abilities. And when he was able to do damage, he was able to one-shot a cursed spirit that was a special grade level from Kenjaku. And in a fight with somebody like Hazunoku, who's around grade 1 and possibly grade 2 at the lowest, he toyed around with. And it kind of falls under that category with Todo of just unpredictability, because even though if you know what his ability does, like Kenjaku, you have to have a certain high IQ to be able to counter it that I don't think many will be able to do unless you can just completely overwhelm him with your power. Number 13 is Jujutsu Kaisen's first yandere, that being Yorozu. Yorozu was able to take ability like construction, which we know being Mai's technique, something that really wasn't a threat or even really powerful at all. It was something that in theory could be strong. Well, this is what the capabilities of it is in a stronger body. And her construction is centered around the knowledge of bugs, so she's able to create insect wings to fly, the liquid metal, which is very potent. It's not only offensive but defensive, and it's autonomous, so it also acts on a mind of its own sometimes. And even developing an insect armor that gives her a battle armor that enhances her strength, speed, and definitely her durability. And in close range, she isn't a threat until she puts this armor on, and then she's able to do some good combos and get into the nick of the fight. And what really puts her at the top of this list is her domain expansion True Spear, which is literally just vanilla ice. Anything that the perfect spear touches is eliminated. With infinite pressure applied to the enemy, they have nowhere to go, and they'll pretty much turn into nothing. Her feats are only with Sukuna, that's the only fight she has, but she was able to at least deal some type of damage on him. Unfortunately, he wasn't trying that hard, but if we compare her power, her output, and what she's able to do, and put it up against some of the other characters, I think they find a hard time dealing with her, not only because of the domain expansion, because the domain expansion is the peak of Jujutsu sorcery, and anybody who has to combat that better have one with them, or they're pretty much done. But I think with the insect armor and applied with the liquid metal that she can also control in the armor, I think it could be a hard time for people to really deal with it. Like, imagine if Sukuna never had to actually fight Yorozu, and Yorozu ended up just joining Sukuna because she loved him so much, and now you have two people on Sukuna's side. That would have been something else. Number 12, I got the Zenin clan's worst kept secret, Naoya Zenin. Now Naoya in base only has projection sorcery. 24 frame sequence, and him tracing it and catching up to the speed is so fast nobody can catch up to it. The only characters that are faster than a projection sorcery is Gojo. So in terms of speed, Naoya is one of the fastest characters to be in the series. However, what he was lacking is the power output. He has obviously martial arts and little tricks to kind of take care of opponents, but he just doesn't have anything that really scares you. But the game changer is the fact that later in the series he becomes the vengeful cursed spirit Naoya Zenin. Now, not only is his speed much faster to the point where he can even reach a Mach speed depending on the angle he's going at, but his acceleration increased his speed, so now he kind of hits like a Mack truck going 100 miles an hour. And in the fight with Maki and combo, he was able to upgrade his projection sorcery by using projection sorcery on the air and creating a bomb-like effect with the frame. And the final piece to the puzzle of Naoya will be his Time Cell Moon Palace domain expansion, which is a domain expansion that you would never be able to figure out, as it is projection sorcery on crack, as no matter what you do, whatever motion that Naoya creates, you have to somehow figure it out in the span of 0.3 seconds or whatever it would be, but you're not going to be able to react fast enough, so you're automatically dead. He's just killing you from the inside slowly as you go away. He is the definition of speed kills, as speed is the entire basis of his moveset. I still think that Mach attack on Maki was the most eye-opening of him. Is it? Because his domain expansion is very deadly and kind of scary, he put it in a real-life term. Being able to hit somebody that fast and them not being able to react to it, anybody can get hit by it. And it took a peak heavenly restriction to be able to counter him because they couldn't face him one-on-one. Not gonna lie though, I kind of wish they gave him a cooler design in his vengeful spirit form, because other than the fact that he's ugly as shit, the only thing he's really got going for him is that he is a monster threat at a special grade level now. Number 11 is the lawyer turned prodigy Higuruma Hiromi. Higuruma's whole kit is based around his domain expansion, the deadly sentencing, where you're put on trial and you have to go through a whole court case with him, and the end result is either he takes away your cursed energy or he takes away your cursed technique, handicapping you and giving him an advantage in the 1v1 fight outside the domain. But what makes him top tier is of course his death penalty aspect of his cursed technique. Once you reach a certain sentencing that is worthy of the death penalty, he will then get the executioner's sword that one-shots and kills anybody with a single pierce of the blade. Then add on top of it, in the fight with Sukuna, he was able to obtain domain amplification, which weakens curse techniques and their effectiveness, but also reverse curse techniques, so now he can heal himself on top of it. There's not much he can't do. In theory, he can take down anybody in the series with deadly sentencing. What really makes Deadly Sentences so good is the binding vow attached to it is that you can't fight him while in it. So he's going to get his stuff off regardless. And no matter how small the crime that you may have did, you will be found guilty for the verdict. His best feat is of course surprising Sukuna and impressing him with the reverse curse technique, domain amplification, and nearly coming close to hitting him with the executioner's sword in his fight with Yuji. And the only thing that stopped him from piercing him was the fact that Sukuna just outwitted him, cutting his hand off, so his hand was numb, so he really wasn't affected by anything that sword could have did. He's another character that, man, if JJK was longer, I would have loved to see him in other fights, like helping out the world if he wanted to. Just because of how unique and the way he fights, I think Gege did a great job at showcasing the potential of a character who's only been a sorcerer for like 2 months, if that. Number 10 is best boy Mahito. Now Mahito, we know without Transfiguration, was a demon on everybody in Shibuya and even before the series. I mean, there was a reason why whenever we saw him, we instantly thought one of our favorites was going to go down and turn into a deformed Digimon. But with Mahito being born like barely a year, he was able to become such a dangerous special grade level curse that if he lived any longer, let's say into the Culling games, there's no telling what he would have ended up becoming. But even then, he ended up becoming a top 10 strongest character, even with the other characters that are listed around him or within the same group area. As out of Transfiguration just gives him versatility out the ass, whether it be mobility, output, power, being able to stab people, defensive, he was able to use it even during mind games against Yuji and creating and using other people as decoys to mess with his mind state. And his domain expansion was one of the most used in the series as he got better and stronger with it each time he used it, with his best feat being the .2 domain expansion that he learned from just watching Gojo do it and imitating it perfectly. With the only reason that Yuji was able to really take him down was of course with the help with Todo, but that Yuji was the only person at that time that could do damage to Mahito's soul. The evil side of me will always wish that Mahito was able to last a little longer in the series. As humanity's nightmare, he was definitely leaving a lasting image upon everybody. And number 9, this might be a little controversial just because of the character, and it's always just hard talking about him in power scaling, is Hakari Kinji, the Restless Gambler. Hakari, just like Higuruma, his domain is everything. In his domain, Idle Death Gamble is immortality. He has immortality for 4 minutes and 11 seconds, and in that he does get automatic reverse curse technique. We all know what his abilities are and how powerful he is in base, and Hakari is just one of those characters that his survivability is so high. There's only so many characters that can realistically deal with him and outlast him. In the fight with Kashimo, Kashimo had the idea of just trying to one-shot and blow his head off, but we've learned that he was able to at least counter that with his reverse curse technique being so fast that he was able to stop the electricity from getting all the way into his brain. And the way that Hakari wins most of his fights, from what we were able to see, is through sheer endurance. No one can outlast him in a real fight. The only way you can possibly beat him is if you just one-shot him before he can get his domain off. And even then, you have to do it at the start of the fight, because if you do it during the fight, it's not going to work, as his domain is over, he can just continuously do them over and over again, depending on which spin he gets in that domain. We only got to see his end result of the Uraume fight, and that being a draw. And I think with some other characters that you have under him, he's definitely giving a run for that money. So Hakari fans, I'm looking out for you. But you got to ride with our boy, because we're not going to be able to see him again. Let's, get decides to make a sequel for some reason. Number 8, we have the ones rejected by Jujutsu, 2 heavily restriction users, Maki and Toji. Obviously, everybody puts them together. I kind of thought to just put them together because it was really hard for me to separate them and just put them in little categories, because I think they're both on the same level but on a different wavelength. I think Maki physically actually is better than Toji, but I think Toji having the inverted spirit heaven is such a huge thing for him that it puts him in that top tier. He's a monster, and I mean, it's not me that could take him down by himself. I mean, we've seen him manhandle Dagon. He took care of a pre-awakening Gojo. In Shibuya, it really wasn't anybody else that could take him down unless he took himself out. And I think in the Culling games, depending on the matchup, I think he would do really well against some of those other stronger characters when he has all his tools and everything to his disposal. And the same thing goes for Maki. I think Maki uses, of course, the Heavenly Restriction the best out of anyone in the series, specifically this one better than Toji. Some may argue. I think that's really up for debate, to be honest with you. When she awakened fully, she took care of Naoya relatively well, especially with the soul-splitting sword that is her game changer, because even though she doesn't have the inverted spirit of heaven, being able to attack anyone, attack their soul, and bypass any sort of defense makes you a cheat code. Number 7 is the main character, Yuji Itadori. Now Yuji, before Shinjuku, would have been much lower on this list, but seeing how he is at the end of the series, Yuji has to beat everybody's top 10. We're done with him being below anybody in the 10. Having the deepest moveset in the series with blood manipulation, being able to attack people through the soul, divergent fist, being one of the best physically gifted characters in the series, even without the heavenly restriction. Then add on top of it near the end, he was able to get Sukuna's shrine, so now he has dismantled, cleave, and his own domain expansion. It doesn't have a name, but we know it pretty much splits anything apart cleanly. And not only is Yuji getting stronger, but I think people will forget that his IQ, his battle IQ was getting higher as well, using everything in his surroundings, whether it be using walls against people, positioning, thinking about their technique and how he can counter it, even if he's at a disadvantage. Yuji's developing his strength is one of the highlights in the series, and I think his best feats, obviously they come against Sukuna, and anything he's done in the end of the series, whether it be with a teammate or without, Yuji was phenomenal. But anytime Yuji used Black Flash, that felt like the best we've ever seen from Yuji, whether it be against the brothers or my favorite being against Mahito, and of course the repeated ones that he did against Sukuna, setting a new record again. Yuji is indeed the truth. Number 6 is the lightning god Kashimo Hajime. He's the only character in the top 10 that doesn't have a domain expansion, and that's because he really doesn't even need one. With his curse energy lightning discharge, that alone put him at a special grade level threat. That's because anytime he comes in contact with this discharge against an opponent, he's gonna blow up something, whether it be an arm, leg, or in some cases, an entire body when he went up against Panda. He was a huge threat when introduced. I mean, he had 200 points starting out, so meaning he killed a lot of people. In the fight with Hakari, it of course was an endurance battle, and they were a perfect counter to one another, as Hakari against Kashimo, if he didn't use his domain expansion instantly like the way he did, he would have died. And on the other end, Kashimo needs this ability because it is a perfect counter to Hakari, as it can instantly kill people. And since they were able to even each other out, and Hakari was able to outlast them, that was the only way he could technically quote unquote beat Kashimo. But he knew he never had a full-on win against them because Kashimo never used his curse technique. That curse technique being Mythical Beast Amber, and it puts all the electricity and lightning he has around his body, creating like a new flesh form in this new beast form. You can barely even tell where Kashimo is in that body. It's so much electricity. And if you try to use any electricity or lightning on him, he'll just absorb it and add it to his already demonic looking form. And I know he got waffled by Sukuna in this, and a lot of people weren't able to see the greatness of what this form really does. But in this form, I mean, he surpasses anything human when it comes to the body, because the sound of it is so loud and impactful that even Sukuna was caught off guard by how damaging it could be just from the noise. And he rendered that Mekuna form practically useless in this new mythical beast form. Now imagine if he didn't go up against Sukuna, even a pre-awakened Gojo, he probably would have took Gojo out worse than what Toji did. And especially against the sorcerers that kind of lack that defense or natural counter with their abilities, there's not many that could take on Kashimo in this form. It doesn't last long, but in this form, everybody's pretty much a target and a walking death sentence. Number 5 is the first special grade Yuki Tsukumo. Yuki, with her star rays, the mass that she's able to control, is the ultimate counter to any defense. Not only any, but realistically, she would be able to go past Gojo's infinity with this. She's the one that taught Todo how to do the simple domain, so naturally she's a master at it. And of course, like most people on this list, she has reverse curse technique, so she has a way of healing herself. But paired star rage with Garuda, then that pretty much increases her range of how she can use star rage, like kicking a ball and taking out a special grade curse like it's nothing, or using them as a whip to get into the close range even better. She has so many ways of just using Garuda as to take on opponents no matter what scenario she's in. And one-on-one, she is also, like Yuji, one of the last people you want to have in a straight-on hand-to-hand combat fight. And very similar to Kashimo, she kind of just falls into that category of unbelievably strong and one of the most broken characters in the series, but she only had 1 or 2 fights, but in this case, 1, where she was able to show what she can really do. We know she has the domain, which obviously has to do something with controlling mass. For the little that we were able to see from Yuki, this was extremely impressive. Number 4, I got the master manipulator in all of JJK, Kenjaku. Kenjaku, with the curse spear manipulation, took what Geto did and just put it on crack, scaling everything that Kenjaku stole with the curse spear manipulation and everything he was able to absorb. He has so many options and ways of putting people down that it was almost an infinite option, as to make you think, is he really the most unstoppable person in the series after Sukuna? Even having us wondering how in the world can we beat him, because he has so many plans. And his IQ is the most dangerous in the series because there was a counter for everything he had. And the only way you could take him down was if you did something that not even he could predict, and something that he had to not even think or account for. But just like Geto, he uses the curse spirit manipulation specifically to beat you in numbers, whether it's to use a giant mass group of grade 1 or even weaker cursed spirits to take you down and just to keep you away from him as he slowly beats you down into a pulp like he did with Choso, or if he uses large special grade style curses to take on opponents, even sending something out like Kurorushi in a colony, and Kurorushi was able to gather up a good amount of points and was a part of the 4-way deadlock in Sendai. Maximum Uzumaki is the strongest technique in terms of great output, as he uses every curse spirit he has and launches it as a beam towards his opponent. No one has ever really been able to survive it, and even using a mini version of it to spear Yuki, cutting her in half. The only drawback to this ability is that once he absorbs a cursed spear or someone's curse technique, he can only use it once. So what made him stop from going into like that top 2 or 3 area is because that once he uses something like an idle transfiguration, he wasn't able to use it again. And then he had the anti-gravity system during the fight with Yuki, as he uses it to counter Supernova and the black hole trap that Yuki set, and the only damage he took was to his clothes. He went up against Takaba, someone he didn't know what the technique was or how it operated, and was able to dissect a way to counter him and beat him relatively easy. And in close combat, he can hold his own just like Geto, or arguably better, as even when you try to bypass his curses, he can at least fight you hand to hand for a while until he can get some curse energy back and continue to swarm back on. And he has a domain expansion, which we can assume is like a huge earthquake of all his curse energy that he's amassed with the curse spirits. He had the best counter plays in the series, and his IQ is still the most dangerous in all of JJK. Number 3, I got Yuta Koto, the Curse Prodigy. Obviously going from a guy who stole and absorbed everything to a guy who copies everything. I mean, we know everything Yuta can do. He has one of the deepest bags in the series, along with Rika, who's a special grade curse along his side. I think what really put Yuta at this top rank is his domain expansion, as in it he even used Jacob's ladder, and taking Angel's curse technique is definitely something that he should have done, because it was one of the only options you can really use against Sukuna. Then even taking G War Staff and using that ability to use against them, seeing a couple seconds into the future, and using the brain's curse technique of being able to swap into Gojo was like the cherry on top. It was a moment that happened. It wasn't like the craziest thing looking back on it, but even then, using it to stall Sukuna and using a curse technique blue lapse on him, trying to use a hollow purple. I mean, Yuta took all of this and used it on the fly. No real training outside of the couple hours he might have had with Gojo, and even before that, having sky manipulation along with thin ice break to use as a counter and reflect on people, having Drew Shikigami with the domain orbital trajectory and copying and making the smaller Rikas. Curse speech, I mean, his arsenal is ridiculous. Then on top of it, the numerous of curse tools he has along with Rika in his complete manifestation form. I fully believe that Shinjuku definitely just catapulted Yuta right above Kenjaku in terms of strength and power. And now the top 2. Everybody knows who the top 2 is. Gojo or Sukuna. I mean, you have to be like out of your mind if you don't think Gojo is number 2 in the series. Quote unquote the strongest. We can't really call him that no more. You know, we can call him the honor one. I think that's just a better nickname overall anyways. But Gojo has so many feats throughout the series. Obviously his best one being against Sukuna in general. That hollow unlimited purple is the greatest move to like ever be done in the series. The entire build up was amazing, and Giga did a phenomenal job at Gojo's last stand. With the limitless at full power, Gojo is unstoppable except for being one person. I mean, people have to fear Gojo, and just going up against them, a scheme to beat Gojo that was months in advance, that specifically needed 100 people just to at least stop him enough to put him in a prison room. Not to kill him, but to just seal him. That's how powerful he was. And even after that, when he's unsealed, he made Kenjaku look like an average sorcerer, as Kenjaku knew he didn't stand a single chance against him. And Kenjaku is top 4 in the series. And in that Sukuna fight, I still feel like one of the most impressive things Gojo pulled off, not offensively but defensively, was the way he used his healing, his reverse curse technique, when to time it, when he was getting hit with the domain expansion Malevolent Shrine, healing himself during all of that, the Fallen Blossom emotion to pull that out during the regular shrine. I feel like that first stint of Gojo just kind of playing on defense was some of the greatest stuff in terms of Jujutsu that we saw in the series. And his domain is just a giant stunt, Infinite Void. We all know what he did against Toji when he awakened his infinity, doing the hollow purple, splitting them and putting a hole in them. We know everything when it comes to Gojo's feats. And it's just insane to think there was only one guy that can be topped above him, and that is Ryoma Sukuna, the #1 strongest character in the series. even taking out his Gojo fight. If you look at Sukuna's gauntlet and everything that he took in the Shinjuku Showdown, it's truly one of the greatest feats in all of Shonen Jump manga. Taking on Yuji multiple times, even with Higuruma, who was using a sword that can one-kill him, and he was able to cut his hand, outsmarting him, and was able to finish off Higuruma, going up against Kashimo and taking him down. Taking on Yuta and Maki inside a domain with Yuji, and still being able to come out on top and being the #1 threat amidst all of that. Then Todo comes in and he's going up against Infinite Boogie Woogie basically with Yuji, and he's taking all of these blows, these punches from unpredictable angles that he can't really plan for, and he's still surviving and putting up a fight. And it takes a Nobara who's all the way at the Jujutsu High headquarters near the hidden tomb, and she's able to use her straw doll technique to attack him, pierce him, and then Yuji has to finish him with, after a record-breaking amount of black flashes, to put him down. That amount of durability and survivability he had in his stint is something we probably won't see in a manga for a very long time. And even just to have fun before that, I mean, he dealt with Jogo, who was a special grade curse, like he was a toy. I mean, it really wasn't much that Jogo could do in that fight. And the King of Curses at the end of the series remained on top, like most anticipated, but I don't think we knew just how much of a gap there was from Sukuna to, even some may argue, to Gojo. There's the top 20 strongest by the end of the series in Jujutsu Kaisen. I think most people can agree, at least, if not on the exact listing, you can agree on at least where these people are kind of put together. Can't wait for season 3 to come out. Definitely gonna try to make some type of content revolving around it when it does drop. Cause not gonna lie, kind of mixing my fix of JJK in terms of just the aura and the vibe that it had. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed. I'll let y'all in the next one. Peace.
Yeah.